This podcast is brought to you by eHarmony, the dating app to find someone you can be yourself with. Why doesn't eHarmony allow copy and paste in first messages? Because you are unique, and your conversations should reflect that. eHarmony wants you to find someone who will get you. How are you going to know who gets you if people send you the same generic conversation starters they message everyone else? Conversations that actually help you get to know each other. Imagine that. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up today.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th.
We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films. Let's get this kids. God damn it.
I didn't do shit. I'm Mary Beth, and I didn't do shit.
Yeah, we'll go with that. In each episode, our special guest brings with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
This week, our guest is writer Jessica Scott. You can see her work on places such as Film Cred, Daily Grindhouse, Ghouls Magazine, and on her site, We Who Walk Here. She's also a cosplayer extraordinaire. Welcome to the show, Jessica.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. Thank you for lying like that with the cosplayer extraordinaire. I'm so flattered.
Okay, but you posted this badass wig, like the pastel colored wig. Like that shit is so cool.
Thank you.
You've also showed me that cosplay does not have to be like elaborate and crazy, but you really can just do it like in your house with some wigs, and like it's not that difficult as like you think it would be. It's intimidating.
Yeah. It totally is. But yeah, literally, I just like put on a different dress and a wig and I'm like, hey, I'm this character. It's so much fun. But yeah, yay, I'm so excited to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you. So we're going to start back at the beginning. How did you get introduced to horror?
Oh, gosh. I don't remember a time when I wasn't into horror. Like, I always liked spooky things, scary things, like every Halloween episode of a sitcom or a cartoon or whatever. That was my jam. The first horror movie I remember seeing was Poltergeist. My parents rented it, and I snuck out from my bedroom and hid behind the couch and watched it while they watched it so they wouldn't catch me, because they tried early on to keep me from watching scary things so I wouldn't have nightmares, but then they realized it was useless and I was going to watch it anyway, and that it didn't freak me out like it did them. So, so yeah, like after Poltergeist, I was like, oh, I need to watch the really, like, for me at the time, that was super hardcore because I was like 5 years old. I was like, oh, I need to watch the hardcore stuff. Like,
that's pretty hardcore in general, though. I would say like Poltergeist is not like a kiddie movie.
No, that's true. That's true. I'm not trying to be like, oh, you Poltergeist fans out there, you're with the soft stuff. No, I'm not saying that.
Imagine he's a 5-year-old being like, that shit's cool. Like, let's fucking go. Yeah. Like, I want to see more faces falling off into like sinks.
Oh my God. That scene in particular. Oh my God. But yeah, I was like, bring on the creepy clowns, bring on the melting faces. You know, like that was the best part of Raiders of the Lost Ark for me, was the faces melting off. I was like, I want all the face melting you can give me. So I just kind of kept going from there, like at the video store and, you know, catching things on TV. And so, yeah, like horror has always been like one of the major things in my life.
That movie had the most horrific beginning and the best ending, because the horrific beginning has a fucking spider on the back of the jacket when they're in the tomb, and he has to like knock him off. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But then you get melty faces. So it's sort of like
and
a reward at the end.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's a good trade-off.
What were some other horror favorites of yours growing up?
When I was like a teenager, I saw The Haunting for the first time, the original from 1963. And it terrified me. For the longest time, that was the scariest movie I'd ever seen. Even things that I think a lot of people would consider more frightening than The Haunting, that always scared me the most. Just sitting alone in the dark with that brilliant sound design and that brilliant direction. And it's so creepy, because haunted house movies are my favorites. Those are the ones that scare me the most. So The Haunting for sure. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was like, that was the movie that, like, I always say, that's what turned me into a horror fanatic. Like, I loved horror before then, but that was the one that, like, I didn't blink the whole time I watched it. I just sat and I was like, oh, this is what I want out of life.
Do you remember how old you were when you saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Like 14 or 15.
Okay.
Yeah. So
better than seeing it like really young. We're still waiting for that this was the movie that I saw as a little kid.
Yeah.
And, you know.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
Right.
I watched that when I was in my I watched it for the first time not too long ago, like a couple of years ago, and I was like, fuck this. Like, it's so fucking good, but good God.
It is. Oh my God. It's, yeah. I'm actually like Hear Us Scream, the collection of horror essays. That's what I'm writing my essay about, is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Just because,
nice.
Yeah, that is what turned me from, ooh, I like spooky stuff to, oh my God, horror is my life. So
that's awesome.
That is wait, now that you did that, that's so funny that like there is a distinction in my life between like, oh, I like spooky shit and oh, I like horror movies.
Yes.
Like that is so, I guess I always thought of them as the same thing, but hearing you say that, it's like, oh yeah, wow, there really was like a different in my head, a different like divide between like in creepy, like Courage the Cowardly Dog and like Invader Zim and stuff that I grew up watching on TV versus like, oh, I'm going to go watch a fucking horror movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, that was the Alien / Nightmare on Elm Street moment where it was like before that, you know, the horror was kind of safe and kind of fun and a little bit spooky. And then there was that one movie that's like, okay, now I see what horror really is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, before that it was like I was all about like cobwebs and creaking doors and, you know, spooky houses, but then seeing how bleak and how horrifying horror could be, I was like, oh, this speaks to my soul, you know. Yeah.
That was The Strangers and the Blair Witch Project, I think, for me.
Oh,
and
wow.
then, like, really thinking about the two films and made me like, oh my God, like, that's what being scared is. It's not like jump scares and being grossed out. Like, that is what it means to be fucking scared.
Yes, like that bone deep dread. I love it.
Where things aren't safe anymore.
Exactly. Like that fit my worldview because like things didn't feel safe to me as a kid. And like I always knew that like the universe was kind of off kilter compared to how it's often portrayed, especially in kids' pop culture. And then when I found Texas Chainsaw, that was like, nothing is safe, nothing is normal, nothing is what it appears. I was like, that horror knows the truth. Horror is the truth. That's how it's supposed to
Exactly.
be.
It's not scared to show you the truth. It's like, yeah, no, we know everything sucks and like it's fucked up. So like, let's just talk about it rather than be like, everything's great.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Horror movies are neat.
We like horror.
I hate horror movies. They're just so dumb.
Fuck horror movies, man.
Horror's the worst. Thanks for listening.
And it's the end of our podcast forever. That's why we had you on.
It's been a long con, you know. All to get to this episode. So transitioning to an adult, what do you think draws you to the genre now?
I think I know this has kind of gotten a little flack in recent weeks. I think in a way horror is very therapeutic for me because, you know, like I talked about, nothing ever felt safe or secure to me as a kid. So seeing a genre that depicted that in a way that I thought was honest and authentic, but I could enjoy it safely. Like I can sit for 90 minutes or 2 hours and kind of work out my anxieties or work out my fears in a controlled setting. I mean, that's so appealing to me. That's not the only thing I like about horror. I'm not like, this is my therapy session, let's go. It's also just fucking fun. Like, it is fun to be scared. It's fun to watch people get killed sometimes. Like, I like monsters, and I like, slashers and all kinds of spooky stuff.
I do think, to go along with that, I do think that horror, I mean, even Wes Craven, I bring up this quote a lot, but Wes Craven says that, horror is the boot camp for the psyche. So I can definitely see how it kind of helps you process fear of society or personal fears that you might have. I think that's the power of a good horror film. For sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like, whether it's a specific anxiety or a specific phobia, or if it's just being a generally anxious person, or, everybody's got some fear or some sense of, the outside world is scary, especially not to be the person who brings up the pandemic, but especially right now, like, everybody's scared of the outside world. So, kind of exercising your demons in bite-sized chunks that can also be funny or entertaining or heartwarming, or, there's so much going on in horror that's not just scares. I mean, yeah.
I'm curious. So since you do talk about, working out like anxieties and fears through horror, do you find yourself, when you want to do that, going back to comfort films, or is it anything in particular?
I take two different approaches depending on my mood or what's going on. Sometimes it's a horror film that like a comfort film, like something like You're Next, like a slasher where I really, like a really strong final girl where I'm like, I just want to feel like I could kick anybody's ass, like I just want to live vicariously through Erin or through Ginny in Friday the 13th Part 2, like my favorite final girls. I just, but sometimes it's, if I've got something that I'm working through and I kind of want to address it, like I might watch a rape revenge film if I need to work through issues related to certain experiences, or lately I've been kind of seeking out films dealing with grief because I've been dealing with that in my life, and it just kind of helps me touch those emotions in a way that feels safer perhaps than doing it outside of horror, if that makes sense. So it just depends on what I'm looking for. Sometimes I just need a comfort film where I just want to be like, I'm the strongest bitch on the planet,
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's so funny because I tell my therapist that, and like my psychiatrist, and they're always sometimes I get weird reactions from mental health care people, which is probably inappropriate on their end. I will say I'm learning that now, where it's like, why are you telling me that my coping mechanism is unsafe when it's like, actually, it is a very safe coping mechanism, I think. Like, you are able to kind of, like you said, experience and like release those feelings that you have in a controlled, safe space where it's all on the screen. You can pause it and stop it whenever you want. And it's fictional. And like, I've written a lot about rape revenge films and anxiety and stuff. And like, those films really have been a huge outlet. And I think that is so amazing about horror, that like people find comfort and find solidarity in just like the power of these movies. And like, it also makes you feel good when you're like, oh, someone else has felt this before. Like, I am not alone in like this weird thing I'm having. Like, I have OCD and I have intrusive thoughts. When I can watch something that like replicates the experience of having intrusive thoughts, I'm like, oh, I am seen. I am not a crazy person. And it's just, again, it's really comforting just to feel like, okay, I'm not the only person that's having this experience. Like, I'm not going crazy. Like, it's just, one of those days. So
yeah, exactly. I'm with you on feeling seen. And I have the same issue. I also have OCD, and I also have CPTSD. And like, I always kind of apologize for this in advance, because jump scares, even when I see them coming a mile away, always get me because I'm easily startled. I'm very jumpy. So like the movie Terrified, which is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen, it took me 6 hours to watch that because I kept pausing and walking away and coming back. Like, it's one of the best movies I've seen in forever.
Jumpy, like, oh God, like you're like, I gotta take a break. I had to take a break.
Yeah.
Imagine seeing that movie in a movie theater when you're inebriated.
Did you?
Yeah.
What?
Oh no! I'm usually one to like to vibe, but to watch things inebriated. But I don't know about that.
Didn't know we saw it at Telluride before it premiered on Shudder, and I was inebriated that night.
How did that go?
It was a traumatizing experience, and it was either like the longest movie I'd ever seen, or like I wasn't sure if that was because I was inebriated or if it was because it was an experience. I will say that. So I feel you 100% having to watch it, because I would have liked to have stopped the movie and got off that ride a couple times.
Stop the world! I want to get off. Jesus fucking Christ! Wait, okay. So this transitions well into our next question, which is, do you still get that childhood fear watching horror movies? And it sounds like you still might.
Oh my God, yes. Not with movies that I've seen several times, like The Haunting doesn't scare me as much anymore, just because I've seen it a million times.
Yeah.
But new movies, like I said, I just watched The Strangers Pray at Night, and I had to keep pausing. To me, that's not really that scary of a movie, but I just was like, nah, this is a little too much right now. I buy into movies a lot. I don't see plot twists coming very often. I'm very credulous when I'm watching a film. So the scares.
Oh, I wish that was me.
Oh man, I sometimes I'm embarrassed by it because I feel dumb, but like the scares hit me, and jump scares, like I said, even like I can pinpoint, okay, the jump scare is going to come 7 seconds from now, and it's still, I just fall off my bed or I fall off the couch because I'm so freaked out.
I'm the same
Love
way.
it.
Like, I'm very jumpy too. So it's like, I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly what it means. Like, that's building, like watching The Conjuring, the third one. I was like, I know exactly what's going to happen. I still fucking jumped.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I knew it was happening. I was like, I know exactly what's going to happen and who was going to pop out from right behind that door.
Mm-hmm.
And I still get scared.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm embarrassed by that, but at the same time, I like that I'm still scared by movies. Like, I don't ever want to not be scared by horror.
Don't ever change that, because
No.
I miss it. I miss it so
Exactly.
much.
Well, and has a movie ever hit you the way that like Texas Chainsaw Massacre did?
Ooh. Gosh, I'm going to try not to pause for like 10 minutes while I, have 1,000-yard stare and think about that question.
I've never watched a movie in my entire life.
Thank you. I should have made a lot more notes before I came on the show.
No, it's
it wouldn't
okay.
help.
No,
Trust.
literally every time I'm on a podcast, they ask me a question like that. I'm like,
Exactly.
That's why we do it. It's more fun to be on this side of the questions.
we get to watch you answer the question.
No
I don't have to answer.
Like the only two movies I can remember in my whole life are Legally Blonde and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All the other movies I've ever watched.
My
leave
God.
my mind right now.
What a double fucking feature.
Right?
We should look at me.
That's
I love
right?
that.
No, okay. So movies that have hit me like Texas Chainsaw. Violation.
Oh.
Just because, I'm not the rape revenge expert that Mary Beth is, but I've seen quite a few of them. And that one felt the most emotionally authentic to me as a survivor, which I never say out loud. So
Is it thunderstorming somewhere?
it is. I'm sorry. It's thundering here.
That's so cool. So spooky.
Right? I need to start like,
Sorry.
and on a dark and stormy
Wow.
night, I watched Violation.
But that movie absolutely kicked me in the teeth in a good way.
Yes.
But like you
Me
said,
too.
it is the most emotionally authentic rape revenge movie
Yes.
that I've ever seen.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, so that one,
Damn.
and I had seen rape revenge movies that I really love prior to certain experiences that happened in my life, so they didn't hit me the same way. But watching Violation, when I did, I was like, oh God, this is the distillation of what that feels like,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Not to pivot 180
No,
degrees,
please do.
but
I keep bringing the room down.
Transitioning. No, but transitioning
Five
from
minute about
that.
rape revenge movies, like getting really sad.
Let me tell you about my trauma. No, go for it.
Hey, we are scarred for life, but okay. So how did you get into writing about horror? Have you always written? What made you decide that you like to write about it?
I think this is a funny story. I don't know if it's actually funny or not. I started my blog in 2017, and I was married at the time.
Was it a dark and stormy
It
night?
was. It has been thunderstorming in my life for the past 4 years now.
You just live in the land of eternal
Yes.
thunderstorms.
God, I wish.
I mean, How goth is
Seriously,
that?
Right?
I
That's
was
awesome.
gonna say that sounds goth as fuck.
Yeah. Like it's just like, you know, a 300-yard radius thunderstorm that's directly over my head. It just follows me everywhere.
Hell
Right?
yeah.
I'm like Mary Shelley, like I command the thunder. But okay. I remember the question. Okay. In 2017,
2017.
I was married at the time to someone who was not a horror fan and was sick to death of me talking about horror movies. And he said, I don't want to hear about this shit anymore. Why don't you start a blog? So,
Like both rude and like thank you, but like
yeah. And I was like, rude, but also that's not a bad idea. Like I always liked writing. I hadn't done much of it and really hadn't done much for like several years after college. But I was like, yeah, I'll start a blog. You know, that'll be fun since I don't have anybody to talk horror with. And like I started my blog.
damn, it's fucking
I know,
storming.
right? It makes my story sound
That's
way
amazing.
more dramatic than it actually is. And then I killed my enemies and used their blood to scroll the writing. No, no, like it's just a story about WordPress. It's not that dramatic, but. But yes, I started this silly blog, and you know, in hindsight, most of it is pretty awful, but some of it I still really like. But yeah, I just started writing about horror and kind of started following a bunch of horror Twitter people. And it wasn't until I keep pausing for dramatic.
And then I press the follow button. That's when my life changed forever.
I'm waiting for like a huge clap of thunder to like lean in and tell something really cool, but yeah.
Oh, please. If we can
if
like
you're-
somehow make that
God.
happen.
If your fucking lights go off, I will scream.
Oh, I will too. I will too. Like I've been on podcasts before where we're talking about a scary movie, and like at one point my dog came in the room and the door was slowly opening behind me, and I was like, it was like Host. Like I was like pivoting to
Host
yeah,
some
right?
Host shit.
Oh my God.
I shut my door. Like my cats will do that to me too, and I'll be like,
Yeah,
"Cat,
right.
please be a cat."
Yeah,
Anyway.
exactly. Like, okay. But yeah, and I didn't really think I would go anywhere with it or do anything with it because I thought I was terrible and nobody cared what I had to say. And then like last summer, it was, you know, middle of the pandemic, nothing else was going on. And I was like, fuck that. I'm going to see if anybody cares about what I have to say. So I reached out to Shannon at Nightmarish Conjurings, and she started publishing my stuff. And then I reached out to Film Cred, and they started publishing my stuff. And I was like, maybe I could do this. Maybe people don't hate me and think I'm dumb and think my opinions are stupid. So
You're very smart.
thank you.
No one thinks that.
I like to hear what you have to say as someone who has edited your work before.
Thank you so much.
It's very
I'm gonna isolate that clip and use it as like a mantra every day, so I don't like, because like since January, I think both of y'all know, and I think a lot of people who follow me know, 2021 has not been the best year for me. And I
Right.
have not been doing great on the writing just because it's been really hard, and I really hope that people don't forget about me and lose total patience with me because I'm struggling a little right now. But I am keeping writing, and I am, you know, watching lots of horror and writing things. So I'm trying to get back on the horse, but it has been a rough year. So
Yeah, well, and I feel like I struggle with that too a lot. If like I don't write, are people gonna forget? But I feel like one, that's not true. Just
It's
talking
not.
to you, like it's not true at all. And also, it's just like I feel like the writing world feels so cutthroat, and like you have to be producing constantly. That like it is so important to give ourselves a break. And this is me telling myself to do that because I am not very good at doing that. But like, it's
Tell
just
me
like
about it.
if people like your writing, they're going to keep reading your stuff, and like they're not going to forget about you. And like, you know, I think Twitter dictates so much like how we think we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to feel and the milestones we're supposed to hit as writers. And I think that that's a detriment to a lot of us. I think we all just get so wrapped up and like we're not hitting the right milestones at the right time. But like none of that matter. Like, there aren't actual like milestone, like actual things you're supposed to do, but it just feels so hard on Twitter, especially this year when it feels like everyone is either hyper creating, which unfortunately I have been doing like too much to myself, or it's just like there's too much pressure to do that kind of stuff. And like, we should just all normalize it to like take a break and not have to pump out content every single week.
Yeah, I get that. I've definitely been in a place where I'm like, I think I've forgotten how to write and I'll never write again. And oh God, but I'm trying to convince myself that that's not true.
Yeah.
Trust me.
I'm going through one of those phases right now. I'm just like, I'll never write a sentence again.
Yeah, exactly.
That happened to me like multiple times last year, so you're definitely not alone on that end.
And see, y'all are like two of my favorite writers, and it feels like you like put out like 5 amazing articles a day. So I'm like, what are you talking about?
Past couple of weeks, I've been like brain empty. I don't know how to pitch. I don't know how to write a sentence.
What is writing? That's me on a. Yeah. Just
I love
smash
it when we
my
have
face
writers
on
in
the keyboard.
Podcast. All we do is just commiserate
Right?
about how hard it is to be a writer. It's my favorite thing. I'm like, let's talk about how much we struggle and how much we love each other.
It's the best. Like, I'm sure, I hope that people have like not like switched off. Like, man, this girl is like talking about all her trauma and all her troubles. Like, screw that.
Oh
like,
no. They're used to that with me, especially. I'm just like, here have some weird shit that happened to me randomly out of nowhere. And they're like, you okay? No, but it's good.
We have the best audience, and they will love you.
We do have the best audience. They love our. Also.
Yay, haunted doll.
Anyway,
I'm trying to think. I don't have any cursed objects nearby. If I had one, I would show it to you. But
I have Abby Howard, one of my favorite comic artists. This is her cat. Her cat's named Spoons.
Spoons.
And this came with a certificate of authenticity that it is in fact haunted.
amazing.
So this is my.
It's so cute.
I know.
It looks kind of haunted, but like I like it. It's like a haunted that I can vibe with.
There you go.
Like a friendly cat ghost.
A friendly cat. Exactly. Okay, after talking about all of our traumas and being writers and how hard it is, Jessica, what movie are we talking about today?
We are talking about April Fool's Day, which
oh my
I
goodness.
am very excited to talk about. It's one of my favorite slashers, and I enjoy it more every time I watch it, I think. So,
just as a heads up to our listeners before we get to the plot summary, if you have not seen this movie, I mean, we you know by now that we do spoil movies, but like this one is predicated on some big twists. So if you haven't seen it, and you want to see it, make sure you go watch. You might want to pause this recording.
And honestly, you should watch it. It's really fun. It's like funny and it's great. It's a wild ride, which we're about to talk about because holy shit, I expected. I knew nothing and I just was going absolutely fucking wild. So April Fool's Day follows 9 college students who are staying at a friend's remote island mansion. Let those words sink into you. Remote island mansion. They begin to fall victim to an unseen murderer over the April Fool's Day weekend, but nothing is as it seems.
Where's my thunder when I need it? And like need a.
I know. That was like the perfect time. God damn it, nature.
Okay, so Jessica, tell us your horror story about April Fool's Day. How old were you when you first saw it? Like, what happened? Just like
How did you see it?
Yeah, how did you see it? Paint us the picture of April Fool's Day.
Let me see. I was probably 12 because I was at a 5th grade slumber party.
Okay.
And we had I don't remember who decided to rent this movie. It was probably me because I was obsessed with the cover art. If everybody's familiar.
Pause. That cover art. I had not seen this movie, but that poster and that VHS art was one that I constantly gravitated to in the horror section. So I completely understand.
Yes. Wait, Jessica, was it your birthday or someone else's?
It was someone else's birthday. Yeah.
Okay, I like that you chose the movie.
And I'm like, I was probably bossier as a kid than as an adult, and I was like, oh, fuck you, because at another slumber party.
Fuck you. Fuck your birthday. We're watching April Fool's Day, and you will love
Another
it.
one, I made everybody watch Audrey Rose. I don't know if you've seen Audrey Rose, but it...
No, I haven't.
There's a scene where like someone is literally just walking down a hallway, and it's really tense, but nothing happens, and I just screamed bloody murder with someone just kind of walking down the hallway. and I never lived it down. So anyway, yeah, go watch Audrey Rose and like scream at the hallway scene for no reason in my honor.
I love that. Okay, so you rented the movie for someone else's birthday.
There were a range of reactions to the movie.
Not
Right.
surprised. Not surprised.
Some people were like, this is so dumb, or this is too scary. And some people loved it. And I was one of the people who loved it and was obsessed with it. But I was also like, I've never been like the most trusting person. I've never really liked people playing jokes and stuff. But after watching this movie, I don't trust a single motherfucker on the planet. I do not like pranks. I hate April Fool's Day. If I could like log off of the internet and stay in a bunker all day long on April Fool's Day every year, I would, because I hate it so much. Like, can I go ahead and spoil the movie, or should I wait?
Okay, go.
Right
Yeah.
ahead.
So
please.
these kids are getting killed off one by one at this remote island mansion. And it turns out that it's all been an elaborate practical joke by one Muffy St. John. She of the most 80s name ever.
Okay, pause.
Muffy
St.
Yes.
John. If there was any indicator that this is the
Oh my
whitest
God.
and the richest movie ever, that name alone should do it for
It
you.
is.
And if that name doesn't scream, I'm a white bitch who's going to kill all my friends, kill all my friends. Doesn't that fucking scream that to you?
I
Good
know.
Lord.
Like, we should have known from the beginning when you're like, what, Muffy St. John? I already don't trust that bitch. Like, and she's awful. She is awful.
What is Muffy short for? Or is it just Muffy?
It's not short. They make a comment in the movie. It's
Yeah.
not short for
That's
anything. Her
right.
name is
Like,
literally
she's
Muffy.
rich enough
It's
to
not
just be
Muffin
Muffy and
or-
nobody cares.
Is that a family name?
Muffy of the
Muffy a
Martha's
family
Vineyard.
name?
Characters. The rest of the characters have equally bizarre names, though. Nan Youngblood, Nikki Braziers,
Right?
Arch Cummings.
Cummings is the worst last name. I'm sorry, y'all. If y'all last name is Cummings, I'm so sorry.
No,
I just think
the
it's an
worst
unfortunate
name-
last name.
I knew someone whose last name was Cocks. It was not Cox. It was Cocks.
And it was
What was
pronounced
their
Cox.
first name?
Yes. I remember they were a major.
Sorry.
They were Major Cox.
Then they earned that name, I guess.
No,
Wait. Wait.
no, they weren't.
They absolutely
Major
were, and their
like
name
in the military,
What?
like they're
yes,
major.
and their email would get flagged constantly for
As porn.
an inappropriate name in it. Yes, so like their name was constantly blocked in the email server. But yes, Major Cox.
Cox.
I do not. Okay. Military industrial complex, terrible. Don't like the military. But if I had a name like that, I probably would have to join the military just so I could have the title Major Cox. Like, I just need to have that title. And then I quit. I'd be like, bye. Like, I've done it now. All you have to know is my name is Major
It would
Cox.
be like Catch
Anyway.
22, where they promote him up to be Major Cox, and then they don't let him rise above it because it's like major, you know. So it's like, no, he can't be General Cox. That's not as funny as Major Cox. So we're going to keep him at that rank.
Lieutenant Sergeant Cox.
Corporal Cox. I don't know.
Okay. So we find out that Muffy has orchestrated this whole thing.
Yes.
And then
And she does it in like the meanest way possible. And I will get into it with Nan, especially, I'm sure.
oh, Nan.
But like, not only did it teach me not to trust rich people because they are awful in this movie, but it also, I just didn't trust anybody. Like, I didn't trust, like, when people would like say nice things to me, I'd be like, this is a prank. This is Muffy St. John, like, trying to pull a fast one on me. Like, anything that happened, I was like, I do not trust this. Like, it fundamentally altered my view of the honesty of other people, like, for life.
April Fool's Day gave you trust
Yes, it did.
issues.
I love though that I just have this image now. If anytime that someone is playing a joke on you, I'm going to imagine you thinking someone is Muffy St. Johning me. Like, I love that. I love
No, that's
that.
totally true though. Like I see Deborah Foreman with that fright wig, and I'm like, I'm not falling for it, Muffy.
But look, okay, this is the thing. That entire house, like right from the bat, it's like April Fool's jokes. This is a mansion of jokes. Fuck you, rich people, for having enough time to just be like, I'm gonna make pranks. Like, that gives me such anxiety just thinking about, because my family is very into April Fool's Day, and we've had to put a moratorium on it because, like, my grandpa used to like do things like wake people up early and like make them do things and then reveal that he fucked with the clocks, and like it was nothing like as bad as this, but like I used to do makeup to make my stepdad think that I got punched in the face and he'd get really upset.
Oh,
see, this is why I have a bunker for April Fool's Day. I just stay the fuck underground away from everybody else on the planet for one day.
I don't do it anymore though. After I
wow.
My mom encouraged it. It was a family thing. It was a problem. We are all deceitful pieces of shit. I understand. But I stopped it. I told my family now because it gave me so much anxiety. I'd be like, just no, none of this. Like, absolutely not. And like my fiance and I won't do it to each other either, thank God. But like at the very beginning we start and she's like, I'm going to convent school and my name, what is
that
her
was
name?
Nikki. Oh my God, Nikki.
And Cyril, or whatever. Yeah.
Mary O'Reilly O'Toole O'Shea.
There you go.
What's funny though is that when she was saying this, I legit thought she was being honest, because I was like, this would be the kind of name that a rich bitch like you would have. Like that, I was like, it does not surprise me that your name is Mary O'Reilly O'Toole O'Shea. Like, I didn't even think about the Irish aspect of it. Like,
I legitimately was like, that just sounds like someone I went to high school with. I thought it was like a joke in the script, not like between the characters. I thought it was going to be like a playing a joke on like those kind of like rich, like Roman Catholic families. And I was like, okay, I see where this is going,
but
different direction. But then, Terry, you wrote this. You wrote this in our notes about the found footage aspect of this film, which was really cool, like the aesthetic at the very beginning. And I was like, ooh, I like this handheld camera aspect of this movie. I hope we get more of that. We didn't, but it was a really cool way to kind of set it up as like as a creepy kind of like, what is happening? Who is this kind of situation?
Exactly, like it throws you off balance. Like the whole time, as a kid, I was still like shocked by the ending when we find out that, it's been a big joke the whole time, even though they're telling you from the beginning, like, don't trust any of these people, don't trust anything that's happening, But yeah, I wondered when you said that you hadn't seen this before. I was like, oh man, I hope she didn't think it was like found footage all the way through and got excited about it.
I was really confused at the beginning. I was like, because like the copy I saw started out in that sort of like 4x3 frame block, even with the like the credits. So I was like, oh, has this not been like, restored, was my first thought. And then they go straight into that camera footage. I'm like, I wasn't expecting this to be like found footage-esque. I was like, what is going on here? And it really kind of, it feels so removed from what is ultimately like a very silly film. But it definitely starts off with, it's a very ominous, like they were never seen from again type feel to it. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's because I've had like 35 years of like watching found footage films in between there, but it's like, that's what like hit me.
Well, and this is why I was so glad I had no fucking idea what was happening. Like I knew nothing about this movie, so I was like, oh, what is this? And then she goes, and I fuck on the first date. And I was like, what is I was like, this movie is going to fuck with my brain. Like I was like, all right, let's fucking go. Because that happens, and then not too long after that, there's this fake stabbing on the ferry over where they're all like, April Fools, we gotcha, I stabbed him. And then a guy falls in the water and loses his eye.
And we haven't even gotten to the creepy island
I did
yet.
wonder about the logistics of that.
No, like we haven't even gotten to like the Scooby-Doo-esque creepy-ass island. But like someone has been stabbed. Also, if my friend, like it seems like these friends have a culture of like fucking with each other, because there is no way that y'all are like pretending to stab each other without having like a history of pranking. I would have left that friend group a long ago. I would have been like, oh, we're getting to the point where we're doing fake stabbings? Like, absolutely
Things
fucking
have gone too
not.
far.
Because that's how you get actually murdered. That's how you get actually murdered. That's how you get murdered.
If I had been at that party Muffy would absolutely not still be breathing, first of all. But Skip is supposedly her cousin, and nobody else really knows him, but he's the one engaged in the prank with Arch with this fake stabbing. So I missed something, or like they got real close real fast. But with Arch, that wouldn't surprise me because he seems to like the boys, and he might have gotten close with Skip fast.
Let's talk about Arch. I love him.
I do too.
I love Chaz. His chaotic bisexual boyfriend.
Chaotic bisexual men, which I feel like we never get in horror, ever. Like, we don't get bisexuals in general, but I feel like it's always female characters. And getting this kind of bisexual energy.
Because Nikki's like, I'm going to convent school next year and I fuck on the first date. And then Arch Chaz says to Arch, I fuck on the first date. We did on the first date, didn't we, honey? He's an animal. And I was like, okay, what are we establishing here? Is this going to be like slightly homophobic, or are we going in like the homoerotic direction? And I was so happy to see that we were going in the bisexual, chaotic, I think they fuck on a daily basis type direction.
Yes.
When he goes up to the guy running the boat and is like, your Twinkie's hanging out for everyone to see, and then gives him a big old smooch on the forehead.
The loudest smooch.
Oh my God.
I was like, I love this man so much. I want him to be my friend. He is just smooching men openly in a public, just giving smooches, being sweet.
When he's in bed with Chaz, they're like rolling around. He says, hold me like a man holds another man. Like, yeah, hell yeah, do it.
Okay.
It's just so good. I loved it. Like, this is my favorite movie. There's bisexual, happy, like, we're like not toxic men.
Totally.
Like in the 80s, like cuddling and like being gay, and it's just like, mwah. Anyway, sorry, Terry.
Refreshing.
It's so refreshing.
That scene is what like really like sold their relationship to me, because it starts out with like Chaz pushing the twin beds together, right? And the idea is that, I'm going to be hooked up with like a girl and we're going to, fuck or whatever. And then
or whatever.
And then Arch comes in and they're like, he's like, let's play hide the sausage. Hold me like a man can hold another man. And they start roughhousing. But the difference here is that unlike the soccer game, which we'll talk about in a minute, or like this stuff beforehand, there's no one else in the room. It is not performative. They are genuinely roughhousing for each other and no one else. And I was like, oh, this is actually kind of sweet.
Yeah. They're just enjoying each other's company, and I'm not being like titillating. They're like enjoying each other's bodies and just being, loving. And it's just, I love it.
And I'm stuck between this rock and a hard place of being like, oh, they're just like really close guy friends who are like sharing their feelings with each other, and they are sexual partners. Because I always feel bad being like, oh yeah, they're totally fucking when it's like good male friendship, but like also whatever. It's refreshing in general to see a male friendship that is like, they are very happy to joke with each other and be caring and emotional, and no one is uncomfortable, and they are both doing it.
Neither of them have to add a no homo to the end of it.
Exactly. Like they love each other, and like there is a consensual understanding between the two of them that they just really care for each other, regardless if it's romantic or like friendship. It's just like a really good male relationship on screen.
Yeah, it's not played for laughs. None of the other characters respond in a way that's like disapproving or laughing at them. They're just like, oh man, such characters, they love each other so much. Isn't this great? It really is refreshing, especially for the time.
Exactly. It's like no effeminate character who is just like a stereotypical gay man either. It is really refreshing. I was really shocked to see a movie where everyone like kind of sucks, but like in a way that I kind of liked, because they actually made them like, they made everyone suck for like a good reason rather than it just being like a bunch of like surface level characters.
Exactly.
They're adorable assholes.
They are. They're like, that probably would have been, besides the pranking and the rich, like they're like college friends. Like they act like dumbass college friends that are just like fucking with each other. Homoerotic soccer. All right, Top Gun, you've got homoerotic volleyball scene, but April Fool's Day has homoerotic soccer, and I think that tops Top Gun. Sorry, guys.
Same year.
Same year?
Yes.
1986.
All right, guys. 1986 is the year of the homoerotic sports montage.
I love this scene because I'll tell you, Arch just could not stop copping a feel on Chaz's ass. Like he was playing more grab ass than he was playing grab ball. Like this was I loved it.
Grab them
I
cheeks.
loved it.
Right? And everyone was vibing. Everyone was vibing.
They
There wasn't
were.
any weird, like, what are you doing? Everyone's like, yeah, that's just them grabbing ass.
Mm-hmm.
Just hanging out.
This is how we play soccer, people. Love it.
It's not, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah. That's
how
how
I
I played
like to
soccer.
play
That's
soccer,
how
but-
that's how I played soccer growing up. That's probably why I'm gay. Because
Okay,
anyway,
but then on the other side of the wagon, though, we had Arch walking in on Chaz and Nikki fucking, and I have two questions. One, how does that position work? Because like I had to like rewind it and like pause it and like try to understand what was happening because her legs are on his shoulder, his shoulders, his feet are somehow by her head. She's lying on her back.
his feet are by her head. Oh, maybe I missed
One
his
of his
feet.
legs.
One of his legs.
He's
I don't know where his other leg is, but one leg is up by her head.
I think he's kind of doing the splits. Obviously, they both do Pilates because they are very limber people.
Like, who's just like, yeah, I'm gonna bust out the splits while I'm balls deep inside of you. Like,
Logistics. The logistics here. I have questions.
I want Chaz's number.
Well, yes, me too, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't understand how that works. And I like literally was like, okay, am I just being obtuse or am I like prudish? Do I not know this sex position? Because I'm like, this just seems uncomfortable to the nth degree. And like when like Arch leaves the room, we see like Chaz like leaning over, and I'm like, how is this working?
I get it. Like, I feel like I'd have to like draw it out, but I'm not much of an artist, so you probably like this makes less sense than before.
No,
Jessica,
I still
but-
want you to draw this out
I
in
will.
time for us to post this episode, so we can include
Yes,
your
in the show
drawing of
notes.
it.
no,
Here's a
like,
wanna see
pornographic
this.
drawing by Jessica.
color coding whose limbs are whose.
Oh yes, I will color code it. That would be helpful.
Yes, that's important because there's
Yeah.
lots of limbs all over the place.
There are, and he's like grabbing onto the weird wire headboard, and like he does not look like he's
Just
enjoying
don't
himself. He's
understand.
like, so-
He wants to be with Arch.
well, that's true.
And I was sad that when Arch walked in on him that he didn't just join in the fun, to be perfectly honest. But I realize that's not going to happen in an 86 movie. But that's what should have happened.
You can still
It is.
dream. Wait, which one of them? Which one of them said to Kit and her boy toy like? And here comes the couple after engaging in a normal amount of non-violent sex.
That was Arch, I think.
That was Arch, right?
was
Yeah, because he has
Arch.
the camera and he's like, "Here it comes," and I thought that was the funniest line of the whole movie. I don't know. It was like so quietly said.
I
I've been
know.
just saying that about them, and I thought it was so
love them. Here
funny.
come these vanilla motherfuckers. Like, I loved it.
And here
doing
they come.
Pilates sex and having like S&M gear, you know,
Right?
it's like
Yeah, S&M gear. Yep. Oh, and of course we had the good like creaking bed, and everyone can hear what they're doing because everything is creaking very loudly in this old river house
Yes.
or island mansion, whatever we want to call it, whatever the
Whatever.
fuck that is.
but okay,
House
since
of
we
Muffy.
did bring him up, House
Oh
of
my god,
Muffy.
House of Muffy.
Since you did bring up the vanilla pair, I do want to talk about Kit and Rob because first of all, Amy Steele,
Yes.
Love her.
Come on.
Friday the 13th, part 2,
The queen.
with a car that's just driving by.
Vroom vroom.
So we have Amy Steele from Friday the 13th Part 2, and I feel like they do actually have really good chemistry. I did love the scene where they do fool around in the dockhouse, and like she pulls down his towel, and he like immediately covers up his nipples and like his crotch, like he's like, ooh, you know. But it's like it feels very like I don't know, it felt real to me.
Yeah.
Like the relationship felt real.
It didn't feel porny as like Nikki, and like it didn't feel like, oh, we're gonna go fuck in the boathouse in the doghouse.
Yeah, there was more romance to it, I think. Like, Chaz and Nikki are more like going for like the gold medal in fucking, and like Kit and Rob are actually kind of in love with each other. But like the whole cast, there's so much chemistry just as friends. Like you believe who these people are and you love these people. Like you were talking about adorable assholes. Like they're just so likable. Like, you want to be friends with them, kind of, even though they're rich douchebags.
Except Muffy. Fuck her.
Oh, yeah, fuck Muffy, yeah. But yeah, like, they all have such chemistry. Like, I would watch an hour of that soccer game, even if there weren't any homoeroticism in it, even though I prefer it with the homoeroticism. But yeah, like, I would watch them just hang out. I love their chemistry just as friend groups.
Well, and it's so interesting how so many movies seem to have a hard time developing even like a group of characters half that size. And in here, it's still less than 90 minutes long, but you still get that sense of like found family with these people, like with this group, and like you get to know them and their personalities. And it is so interesting how hard that is in movies, like, and how it is really important to create these really fascinating characters in the way that it can be done without, you know, sacrificing the plot of the film. And maybe because the entire movie is like kind of rooted in their relationships and like their trust of one another. But it was really surprising to see how in depth these characters were written for a movie like this.
It is. The script is so good. And I love some of these actors are some of my favorites. Like Arch, the Thomas F. Wilson, who most people know as Biff from the Back to the Future. He is one of the most personable.
Oh my God, that was Biff?
Yes, that's Biff. He is one of the most charismatic actors I've ever seen in my life. I love him. Like, just, but yeah, the script, I was struck by how smart it was. Like, I never gave it credit before because I wasn't really paying attention to things like that. But, like, everything it's saying about class and, you know, how we were talking about, it's got all these homoerotic elements without ever making fun of them. Like, there's so much going on. It's so tight and so smart.
Why don't we talk about this movie more?
I don't know. I love it.
Well, we should be talking about it more because it is celebrating. It just celebrated its 35th anniversary, so it's like,
really?
This is the year to be talking about it.
I should have been pitching everywhere about this movie.
I was gonna say, like, no, I'm gonna start pitching everywhere about this movie. Let me talk about gay soccer,
right?
But no, you're absolutely right though, that they, like, I was just thinking about it as you were talking about this, that yes, each character feels unique in their regard. No one, they all kind of have that kind of lovable asshole kind of vibe to them, but each character feels kind of singular and unique. There's no, like, they don't like just meld into a group of nameless, faceless teens that get slaughtered in these types of movies. Let's be honest. I could not tell you most of the character names from most Friday the 13th movies, for instance. Sorry for fans of Friday the 13th, but that is my truth, and I must speak it. But like here, I was like, okay, this is Nan, this is Arch, this is Skip. Like I got them all, and they all felt unique in some way.
Yeah, they even some of them talk about the poor little rich girl, poor little rich boy thing that could easily be a cliche and make you hate them more. But like Skip being, you know, talking about how he'll get disowned, because of the ferry accident where he was responsible for the guy losing his eye. You know, there's some real pain there about having so much pressure and having really a fucked up family life, because as we learn, Skip is actually Muffy's brother, and Muffy's whole prank thing came about when she was a little girl and she's at a birthday party and all the adults play a prank on her because she's got this Jack in the Box and she's turning it, and then this monster jumps out and they all laugh at her. That will fuck a kid up. So clearly she has some prank related trauma, and I just love the idea that they're exploring like generational trauma and burdens, regardless of class, but specifically with, you know, upper classes, I guess you'd say in this one. And I love that they're not trying to tell you that these are good people, but they're still kind of visiting this idea of like what that does to a kid and how fucked up you get later on in life. So there's just so much going on in the script.
Yeah, and then there's Rob, it's Rob, right, about medical school, and he's just like, yeah, I got in, and then he's like, but, you know, my advisor still said all this shit to me, and I still, like, don't feel...
Said he doesn't take it seriously enough to be...
Yeah, take it seriously to be a doctor, and, like, he just feel, like, you know, you can have these successes that seem like, oh, okay, rich boy, but then there's also, like, this kind of underlying anxiety and, like, you know... anxiety underneath that they go into a little bit, and it doesn't feel like, oh, why the hell are you throwing that in there? Like, it feels important, and it doesn't feel like they just put it in there for no reason and left it. Like, it was included enough that it felt like a really interesting kind of like detail that enriched the character, but didn't feel like some kind of non sequitur, like a red herring.
Yeah, and everybody has a different level of wealth. Like Rob is still, he's got enough money that going to medical school is an option for him, but he talks about how everybody else has more money than him, and like there are all these different income brackets, and it changes how they react to each other. Like it changes how they treat each other, and it's really interesting to see that.
Well, and even in amongst, we're kind of talking about this, but in amongst the kind of richness above him, there is also Hal Harvey Edison Jr., and I'm pretty sure that Edison is supposed to be sort of like a little wink and nod to like old money, but like he is the only one that seems like kind of a jerk in the group, because there's a scene where he's practicing his speech to go get with Muffy, and he's like saying, "With my talent and your money." So it's like he has reduced her from being a person to being she's old money, she has the paycheck, and I have the talent. And he's smoking his cigar while he's doing this. So like they're even among the rest of the group that where Arch is saying like, we're privileged, independent, the hope for the future, and does anyone know what we're going to do after graduation? And no one knows what they're doing. Yet you have Harvey that's like, yeah, I'm going to take her money, I'm going to marry her, and she's going to be my trophy wife, basically. Yeah,
like everybody else can laugh at themselves and say, yeah, we're kind of assholes and we know it, but we're trying to do the best.
He's a real asshole.
But he's the only one who doesn't know that he's an asshole. Harvey is. So that's why, like, other than Muffy, he's like the biggest villain, I think.
Ugh,
like,
Muffy.
Right? Like this whole show could just be us going, God, fucking Muffy.
Muffy and Buffy.
Muffy and Buffy. Ugh.
Fucking Muffy and Buffy.
I mean, okay, but who would name? I mean, I guess we know the answer, even though she doesn't have a twin. But who would literally name their twins Muffy and Buffy? Like, are you fucking kidding me?
I've heard some weird shit though. Like, I haven't heard that level of shit, but like, I feel like the twins I have met, like, they always have the same first letter or like similar sounding names, and I'm like, why are you doing this? Your children look identical to each other. Why are you making this harder than it has to be? I don't understand. Why? Why are we doing this? Like, sorry. So I knew a lot. I had like a weird number of twins my graduating year, and there was like Cameron and Colin, and like, what the fuck? There was two. Like they had very similar names that started with H, and they were identical. And I was like, nope, absolutely not.
I do not approve.
Fucking idea. Everyone's like, you can't tell them apart. I'm like, no, I don't spend that much time thinking about it. Good Lord. I sat, and like they both sat next to me, and I still couldn't figure out who they were. Maybe I just have some trauma with twins. I don't know, but whatever.
I had a teacher who was a twin, and he taught math. His twin brother taught math one taught math at East High School in Bellevue. The other one taught math at West High School.
Shut
they were identical.
Fuck up.
Did they lead like
way.
rival groups of math geeks, and they had like rumbles in the alley or something?
They would take over each other's classes though. Like they would end up like swapping classes.
And
that takes it to a whole other level of like fucking with the substitute teacher.
Uh-huh.
Okay, they did that with romantic partners. They did that. Sorry that I went there. Sorry about that.
No.
That's probably true, though.
Yeah. It's probably true.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to do that to a classroom of children.
Right.
So I wanted to give a shout out. I don't want to think about this anymore.
Twins are weird. Twins are weird. I don't understand. Twins are fucking weird.
Whether you're Muffy and Buffy or Cameron and Colin. I do want to give a shout out to Nikki. And not only because Nikki is the name of my best friend, but like I love her character in this. I love her in this movie. I love her voice. Her voice is like smooth whiskey, and she is literally my favorite character in there because she subverts that kind of bitchy blonde that we get in these horror films. Because she comes across as like, we introduce in the first thing she says, "I'm going to the convent next semester," and I fuck on the first date, and then she is taking off her clothes and like sunbathing, and then she's outside the window. She's with strategically placed like jacket covering up her breasts. This movie is very, for being like a sex comedy in a way, there's no nudity it's whatsoever in this. But like, so she presents that, but then she's also kind. She's also very smart. She's also the one that goes climbing down in that well when trying to find, the bodies. Like, she is a great character.
She is. I loved it when she was like, "I'm not afraid of a few frogs and spiders, Harvey."
She's got one up on me.
Same.
But it feels like there weren't any like slasher tropes. I feel like they were like, haha, this whole movie is red herring after red herring after red herring. And it feels like it's like, oop, who's the final girl? Oop, who's the sex crazed girl who's gonna get killed first? Oop, who's this? But then it's just like, no one. Surprise. Like, it is really interesting how it plays with that.
I will say, though, that Kit becomes more tomboyish as the movie goes on.
Yeah, that's
to the
true.
point where, like, she's wearing, like, it's a blouse, but she's wearing it almost like an open, like a collared shirt, and she has a tie on. Like, the amount of, like, progress she goes from being, I mean, she wasn't that sexualized in the beginning, but sort of that progression to the more masculine, or at least traditionally masculine at the time, kind of, it really does kind of, I thought, fit in with, like, the final girl thing. But I do think it was kind of a wink and a nudge.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it. There's like homages a little bit, wink and nudges to like slasher kind of expectations, but it ultimately is like we have sex and we don't die, and like the final girl lives, but you know her boyfriend doesn't die either. I guess we want to go into talking about that ending, like into more detail now that we're kind of like dancing around it.
Yeah, and I wanted to say about Nikki, when she kind of takes Muffy aside and says, you always get there first with guys, but Chaz is mine, okay? Like, I feel like they're kind of setting Muffy up as, like, the bitch and the sex-crazed girl. Like, she's a bunch of different slasher tropes in one, but since she's, quote-unquote, the killer, they kind of remove her from the equation at the same time, so they're playing with it in a really interesting way in that regard, too. Because, like, she's the bitchy girl who should die. She's the quote-unquote slut who should die, you know. But she's the one doing all the killing, supposedly. So.
Well, supposedly.
So we do get to this ending. And, Mary Beth, this was both of our first watches. I knew the twist, unfortunately, going in. But you did not. Did this surprise you?
Oh, my God. I was texting Terry. I was like... What the fuck is, like, every couple of minutes at the end, I was like, I don't understand what's happening. I don't, like, what the fuck? Because, like, so the first big thing was, like, holy shit, Muffy has a crazy sister named Buffy who, like, escaped and is, like, burned her clothes, and they found a dead Muffy, and I was like, holy shit, like, this is Bananagram. Fuck yeah. And I was like, oh my God, no way, like, classic, your twin is a killer, like, cool. And then it was like, I was like, oh wow, what a cool movie. And then the twist happened where it's like April Fools, and I was like, I texted Terry in all caps, I'm going to commit a fucking homicide. Like, I cannot fucking handle this. Everyone would have been deceased. I was so mad. I was so angry. I was like, this is gaslighting. This is so mean. What kind of friends are you?
Thank you. So were you mad at the movie or were you mad at fucking Muffy?
I was mad at all of it. I was mad at the whole thing. I was like,
totally
how
fair.
dare you? All I could think about was like, poor Kit is like about like thinking she's gonna get murdered. Her poor boyfriend is just like, Kit, and like he's so sad. I love you, and like they're just so scared. And she's like coming up with the knife, and she's freaking out. And then she walks into the living room, and everyone's just chilling.
Completely ignoring her, by the way.
I was like, is this what is this? What is happening? Did I miss something? I don't understand. I was like, wait, it was an entire April Fool's joke the whole time? Fuck. I loved it, though. I was like, that's fucking gutsy, though, to be like, psych, everything was like a total joke. And I'm like, this came out?
Right?
That was a movie that people like. And then the best part was when the guy who had his eye come out walked up.
Bucky.
What the fuck was that? Oh, it was my kitten hitting the door full force to get in. I was just... It's getting very heated about April Fool's Day. But like...
We found a dead Muffy.
But like, I couldn't stop thinking about the guy who lost his eye on the boat. And I was like, what, is that going to come into play? And then he walks up to the boyfriend and peels off the injury. And I was like...
And smooches him.
And slaps him with his own eyeball.
I was like, what is happening? I feel like I am in kid's shoes. I am being punked. I am being fucked with. And then
you just got muffied.
I
Oh my god, I want that on a shirt. You just
Y'all
got
just
Muffy.
got muffied, bitch. But then, like, Muffy is, like, laying it out. It's like the end of, like, a murder mystery where, like, I, Muffy St. John, orchestrated this crazy thing because I wanted to turn my house into a hotel. And she rolls out a fucking, like, tray of champagne bottles. And they're like, and you? I'm an effects artist. And you? It's just like...
I'm Tom Savini. Like, yeah.
But he, like, and you, captain of the ship, or captain of that, and he's like, I'm not an actor. I just thought it'd be fun. It was like, what is happening? It's just like, but like, I'm so glad I didn't know because it was so much more fun to be like, what the fuck?
Oh my god! Oh.
It was so good. Oh my god.
What's funny is when I was doing research on this, I did come across an article on Bloody Disgusting, which was actually written by Trace Thurman, one of the horror queers, but he was talking about seeing this for the first time in 2016. And he had this, he did some research. There's a book written by Adam Rockoff called Going to Pieces, The Rise and Fall of the Slasher Film. And there's like a couple points that are brought up in this. One is that this movie was one of the reasons why the slasher genre like ended up nosediving, because as low as this movie cost, it was considered a failure, and audiences hated it because of the things that we're talking about. But there was like a reason behind that, though, is that according to the director, Paramount didn't know how to release it other than as a typical slasher picture. So most audiences came in expecting to see something they weren't going to see and were disappointed. It wasn't marketed as something fresh, hip, and fun. So there's that. And then there's the other side of things that I guess the movie actually originally did have a darker third act where the friends leave the island and then Skip ends up killing Muffy for the inheritance.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. Well, okay, so that would have been rad because at the very end, Muffy is going up, like, wasted up to her bed, and the Jack-in-the-Box in the beginning is on her bed. And I was like, oh no, another jump scare, another twist is coming. And so she gets her throat slit by Nan, correct?
Yes.
The throat slit by Nan, and poor Muffy is like, holy shit, I'm bleeding out. And then Nan kisses her on the forehead and goes, April Fools. And had like fake blood coming out of a pair of scissors. And I was like, fuck every fucking single one of you fucking people. I fucking hate every single one of you. And I would have turned around and stabbed that bitch. Not even on purpose. Just like reflexively would have been like...
I love watching you go through what I went through at like 12 and like I don't trust anyone. like fuck you.
No.
Like walking down the street seeing strangers. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Now, see, this is where I didn't know about this ending. I knew about the surprise, and so I was like, oh, is Nan killing her because she was an absolute dick to her with the baby sounds? And
oh my god,
the idea that she had an abortion. I'm like, so I was like, yeah, you go kill her. And then it's like, no, psychos. I was a little disappointed, to be perfectly honest, because I was like, you are rude, you are evil. And you even if we take out the fact that you just put on a multi-bonkers April Fools on your friends, you totally fucked with her in a way that you should not be fucking with someone.
Thank you.
Like really cruel. Like
me.
Took that personal information and was like, ooh, like it's funny, but is it funny? Ooh,
right?
Ooh, I don't know. And then you're just like, but then it's like at the same time, you don't want to tell your friends about it because if they don't know you had you don't know that you had an abortion, and you're like, cool, this is fun for me to deal with by myself and like have no one to talk to about it and just be reminded of my trauma of having an abortion. Like, yeah, thanks a lot, friend.
That they kind of suggested she was forced into by the guy that got her pregnant. And also when Muffy, quote unquote, apologized for it, she said, I do regret that some people took that shit way too seriously. Like she's side-eyeing Nate. That was not an apology. I was so pissed off. Oh my God. I get pissed off every time.
Sorry you got mad that I made fun of your abortion.
Right? Like, I'm sorry I used your psychological trauma against you in the most horrific way possible. God. It
was funny. It's for me to make a hotel out of my house. It's been nice to me.
I know. But, okay, I have a question about Nan, though. At one point, Arch is, when he's doing his like spiel to the camera about like, I plan to bed every woman I meet except Nan. Does he think Nan is gay? Like between when he's like, Nan's out of the question because she likes the theater. And then when she kisses Muffy in her bed, like, are they suggesting that Nan is a lesbian?
I was wondering.
I also was wondering that because I was like, I don't have enough information, but that smooch at the end, it felt pointed. Thunder smooches. Well, because, and that makes you think about it because, like, with, you know, our homoerotic soccer boys, like, they did things like that too. And that seems like, you know, definitely played up for, like, homoeroticism. So her kiss at the end also had that kind of vein to it. Like, you didn't think about her as, and she kind of gave off, like, nerdy one who wasn't very sexual, was reading Dante and, like, reading books by herself, like, doing her homework. So
Well, at the end of the movie, her hair is also slicked back, and it's like,
oh yeah.
It gives off that sort of like lesbian energy, to be perfectly honest. Like, I loved it, and I was like, what are you trying to say here? Because her hairstyle was completely different. It looked like she was kind of like dressed up differently. Like, for some reason, I barely remember what she looked like, but it looked different than what she had looked the rest of the movie.
She had, like, this is just me being obsessed with Atomic Blonde, but she had, like, Atomic Blonde energy. She was dressed in, like, all black with slicked back blonde hair, like an assassin.
Yeah.
And I was like...
It was very queer.
Was.
It read queer to me.
Wait, guys, is this a queer classic that no one talks about?
I think we should say it is.
I think we should make
we're
it canon.
We're claiming it.
We're claiming it.
I also, okay, with the little practical jokes, though, I do have a question, because Nikki finds the S&M gear, and she says, this isn't for me. And then Chaz is seen holding it. Is he the one that's into S&M?
I think it is for Nikki, because she's she says, this isn't for me. And he's like, are you sure? And then later when they're talking about, like the clippings, like the clippings about a car accident, and Harvey's like, I'd never had a car accident, like looking around. Like, I feel like they left a lot of things unsaid, but since Muffy and Nikki are like the closest, I think, and know the most about each other, because Nikki's always talking about how well she knows Muffy, I feel like there's some story there that Nikki doesn't want to tell anybody, that only Chaz and Muffy know. Like, I think that was for her, and something is going on there that they never really let us in on, but it's something that kind of gets under Nikki's skin, and she's trying not to show it.
Okay. I still want it to be Chaz.
No, I get that 100%.
I just would love to see him. But
I mean, he does try
that.
on the masks and stuff, so.
He does put it on, so.
We'll always have that.
We will always have that.
We'll always have S&M gear. I also have a question. Have you guys played, I don't know if either of you are big video, well, I know Mary Beth plays video games. I don't know if either of you are big video game fans, but have you guys played Until Dawn?
I have not. I'm not much of a gamer, I'm afraid.
Okay, well, the story of, have you played it, Mary Beth?
Yes.
Are you familiar with it?
Watched Let's Plays of the whole thing, so technically I have not played it, but yes, I am familiar.
Because I do feel that Until Dawn has taken from this movie. Because
110%.
Because the idea behind that movie, well, it's kind of like a movie, that video game, is that this guy had trauma, someone died, and then he invites everyone back up to his spooky mansion in like the wilderness. He gets killed, and then people start disappearing, and it turns out he was fabricating the whole thing. And I'm like, it's totally like the plot of this movie in one regard, but it's a little bit more, it's even more mean-spirited than this. And then it goes on in a different direction, but like that is one of the subplots of that game. And I was like, oh, watching this is like, that is where Until Dawn kind of gets that feel from.
Interesting.
And then Brenda, I have to say Brenda from Final Legend, or Urban Legend, not Final. Urban Legends.
Yes.
Have you ever?
Oh my God.
With her like bonkers wide eyes look and her like fried hair at the end is totally pulling a Muffy.
Totally. Oh, I'm obsessed with that. Yes.
She did a Muffy.
she did a Muffy.
I think she would have done a Muffy or two in her day. I'm claiming Brenda too. I don't care.
There you go. I'm here for it.
April Fool's Day, aka Muffy's Day. I feel like that should be rebranded.
Yes. Muffy's Day out.
Day of the Muff. No, I'm sorry.
Muff is a buff.
Do we want to give April Fool's Day our rating out of 5?
We definitely do.
This phenomenal, claiming it now, queer classic horror film slash, I guess not technically a horror film, but sex comedy. I don't know. But Terry, how many homoerotic soccer games out of 5 do you give April Fool's Day?
Well, I love me a homoerotic soccer game
Yes.
more than anything else. Well, okay, no, I think I'd actually take a homoerotic rugby game over soccer.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nudity in rugby games, too.
There really is. They're definitely like that. Even without the kind of, you wouldn't need to film it and add homoeroticism to it. Rugby is just homoerotic. They're pulling each other's pants down. They're like, yeah. Anyway, I as much as I'd love to give this 5, I was gonna give it like 3.5. But then when we were talking about it, I had to bump that up. I'm going to give it 4 full homoerotic soccer games out of 5. I think this movie is a blast. It's, even though I knew it was going to happen, I had so much fun watching it sort of unfold. I think the characters are an absolute fucking delight. And I want Chaz and Arch to fuck. So if they had fucked, it would have been 5. What about you, Mary Beth?
So I initially, when I finished the movie and put it on Letterboxd, I was like, oh, we get three homoerotic soccer games. Like, this was good. But the more we're talking about it, the more I'm like, this movie fucking rules. Like, this movie, I didn't know the twist, so I had so much fun with that, like being so shocked at every moment, which I feel like is so hard nowadays with a lot of older, like any movie. I feel like it's hard not to know the twist. But then this really, like, these tones of homoeroticism that were like really well done and not played for laughs or played as cruelty, but just really interesting parts of characters. It plays with slasher tropes in a really interesting way. You would think, like, the ending might seem cheap to some people, but I think it's amazing. Like, it just kind of pays off with the whole tone of this movie. It's so fucking weird. It just works. So yeah, I'm gonna give this 4 homoerotic soccer games out of 5, where I will be sitting in a chair drinking a White Claw and enjoying myself. Jessica, you have the final word. How many homoerotic soccer games do you give April Fool's Day?
I'm gonna have to agree with both of you. I love this movie. I think it's really smart. It's really like progressive for the time. It's surprising the first time you see it, but it is endlessly rewatchable. This is honestly one of my comfort movies, even though it makes me angry in parts. But it's so much fun. It's so hilarious. The cast is great. The script is great. The direction is really cool in certain places. So yeah, I'm going to give it 4 homoerotic soccer games out of 5 as well. I love this movie, and I hope if anybody who's listening has not seen it, that everybody goes out and watches it, because I love this movie.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, it was free. It was a free watch. It's so weird also think you mentioning the direction, because this is the director of When a Stranger Calls, which is another really good take on like that sort of like babysitter in the babysitter watching a kid movie from the late 70s. And that one, have you seen that, Mary Beth?
I've only seen the remake. I haven't seen the original.
The remake was a wasted opportunity for When a Stranger Calls, because that original one
scared the shit out of me, but I also saw it when I was that age, when like that kind, like I was the perfect demographic for the remake when it came out, because I was the babysitter age, like going to people's houses and watching kids, and I didn't know about the original one, so it scared the absolute shit out of me. But that's neither here nor there.
The original one, it's equally surprising, I would say, to this movie.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I won't say anything beyond this, but the structure of the original surprised me a lot, because I had a preconceived notion going in, and it was the opposite of what I thought. So
you think it's the remake? Like the remake is yeah.
And
we need to have you watch that movie, Mary Beth, because it's really good.
I can do that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for bringing this movie to our attention and rocking our world with the queerness of it. I absolutely loved it. So thank you so much. Where can the listeners find you, and what do you have that you'd like to share of your work coming up?
You can find me on Twitter at We Who Walk Here. I have a link to my portfolio. I've got new articles coming out, and I might have some podcast news coming out soon, maybe, possibly. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, just come say hi to me at We Who Walk Here and let me know what you thought of the movie, and check out my articles because I share them and post them on my profile and everything. So.
Yay. So, listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. What was your experience with April Fool's Day, and did it rock your world like it rocked ours? Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com or reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm McGailey Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. It really helps us out.
It seriously does. Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children? Won't somebody please think of the children? Somebody please think of the children!
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room?
It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you
in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.